Yes, that title is correct. It's been over 20 years since Ocarina of Time first came out. Despite numerous games, no dungeon has, in my opinion, managed to best the Water Temple. It's a true pinnacle of design, a truly challenging experience, one that was satisfying to overcome. It's probably fair to say that the Water Temple is the most notorious dungeon of all time. It's often cited as a low point in an otherwise great game. One common joke is that the Water Temple is the reason Ocarina of Time got a 99 on Metacritic, not 100. But I'm here today to argue against all of those criticisms. It's easy to hate on the Water Temple, but if you dig deeper, you'll realize that it's an expertly crafted experience. Let's get into it. The ambiance and general atmosphere of the Water Temple is superb. It's really relaxing. The music is calming and soothing, yet there's a hint that something is wrong. It's genuinely one of my favorite tracks in the entire series, and easily my favorite dungeon soundtrack. The visuals are extremely appealing as well. The light blue and red highlights are awesome, plus the water texture is surprisingly good considering this game came out in 1998. The 3DS remake of the dungeon looks absolutely fantastic as well. It's just really pretty and the music does it justice. Let's talk mechanics. Probably the thing holding the Water Temple back the most in the original N64 release were the iron boots. Admittedly, it was a pain. You had to open the menu, scroll, equip the iron boots, and leave, just to use them for a little bit. Holy crap, this got old. However, they thankfully fixed this in the 3DS version by making the iron boots an equipable item like the hookshot, or the bow. Plus, it's not really the Water Temple's fault, it's more of a game design issue. The hover boots share the same problem. So, it's certainly a drag on the dungeon, but it's an issue that's been fixed, so I'm just gonna ignore it. Of course, if you feel like it's a bigger issue, that's your personal opinion, but I feel like it's been fixed, so I think we should just disregard it. Now, why do I consider this dungeon the best? There are certainly many good dungeons in the Zelda series. What makes the Water Temple so special? The short answer is its mechanics and complexity. The Water Temple is a true maze. There's so many passages that may or may not be accessible at a certain time. There's so many small keys, it's an actual challenge to get through, and forces you to remember small details. The puzzles may not be the most complex, but that is made up for with the navigational difficulty. Raising the water level always made me feel so cool. It's immensely satisfying when you figure out puzzles. It's also super easy to get lost. I admit it can be really frustrating to get lost. But I never found it that tedious to go back for missing keys or whatnot. Yes, it can be annoying, but I appreciate that it's actually a challenge. Something that actually made you conscious of what you're doing. The dungeon feels organic and natural. Raising the water level affects the whole dungeon, and you really have to ponder all of the possibilities of your actions. The whole dungeon is one big puzzle that feels great to actually figure out. All of the smaller puzzles feel intricately woven into the bigger picture, meaning that your immersion is never broken at all. It feels intimidating, yet you have to get the courage to go through it. It's a true Zelda dungeon in that sense. Most 3D Zelda dungeons are really easy puzzle-wise. I can really only think of 3 examples of dungeons that were somewhat challenging to work out. Those being the Water Temple, the Wind Temple from Wind Waker, and the Lakebed Temple from Twilight Princess. I've heard that the Great Bay Temple is similar, but I've never played Majora's Mask unfortunately. Now, being easy isn't necessarily bad. I don't mean to insinuate that. The Ancient Cistern, for example, isn't very challenging at all to navigate through, yet it's still my favorite Skyward Sword dungeon. But challenging dungeons are few and far between. Be honest, when was the last time you actually had to use the dungeon map as it was intended? The Water Temple makes use of all of those skills that you have built throughout your journey. It forces you to use the map. It forces you to think about how your actions will open up more possibilities. And it forces you to think critically and remember the big picture. That's something very rare in most Zelda dungeons. The Water Temple gets a lot of hate. It's frustrating, cumbersome, confusing. Yes, it is all of those things. But it's also brilliantly designed, challenging, engaging, satisfying. It has some of the best music of any Zelda dungeon. Has one of the best mini-bosses of all time, Darklink. Morpha is decent as well, even if it is a bit easy. It is mysterious and deep. It's fantastic. Hopefully you can see why I feel the Water Temple is so good. It's what every Zelda dungeon should be like. That's all for this video. What do you think of the Water Temple? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like or subscribing. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.